Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Hexham Town Council on the 14th of February 2020. We have a long agenda ahead of us, so I would request everybody, if ever possible, from us all, to try and get through a very large agenda in the time allotted for staying in the Great Hall, which is supposedly 8 o'clock. If we could. So the first item, as ever, is to hear any questions from the residents of Hexham.
Right, should I stand? Or can you see me from here? Stand for me. Readers of the Hexham Correctness, even if they're very careful readers, could be forgiven for thinking that the current town council is not being very careful of taxpayers' money. There were 3 headlines in the 27th of January edition. Council tax rise would force voters into a rethink, was 1. Bills to pay, never ending. Hexham's council tax rise adds to the misery. Shock as town council hikes tax. Well, I have written a response on it to get published, assuring readers that the increased precept will not hit the most needy and vulnerable members of the community because it's a relatively progressive tax. But haven't seen any response to the comment of a current town councillor that says it will actually mean 99,000 for his council to spend on its pet projects and personal promotion, rather than putting residents first. I find that an incredibly unfair thing to say, and I've looked at how money in the past was spent. So money that the previous town council set and in spend that they agreed. One of my pet peeves, over £5,000 for bedding plants in 1 year, and we know how bad bedding plants are for the environment and biodiversity crisis. Over £50,000 to Millennium Quest for Christmas lighting in the current financial year. And over £17,000 in leasing costs alone for bits of equipment, the digger, the tipper and the tractor at the cemetery. I could go on. So I'm curious to hear from either members who were on the previous town council as to whether they think that kind of spend was good either for poorer families or for Hexham residents in general.
Right. Well, I don't think it would be wise to enter into debate about what happened in last month's council about budget, because that was done last month, and it's a democracy. People have different views, and people have different views. So we've had that debate, and the decision was reached. As regards to bedding plants, we are altering the way we approach planting, with a reduction in bedding plants to more perennials. Christmas lights is in a contract, which we will review when that contract comes to an end. I think there's another 12 months. Yeah, another 12 months to go. And leasing costs, well, we have those for equipment at the cemetery, and obviously, there's some heavy things need to be, digging holes for graves, etc., and other mechanical things. The council in the past has looked at a purchasing or leasing, and it makes the balanced decision based on that, really. But I really don't want to get into a debate about about the council tax and what we agreed last month. That was done then, and that went on for some time. Trevor, you have your hand up?
I've got my hand up, I respect what you're saying. I've got my hand up because I'm more than happy to reply to the points that have been made there, if allowed.
Well, I think we've had a debate is what I'm trying to get at here. He's conscious about how much we've got on this agenda. But if you want to make it swift.
Well, I can make it swift, I can make it last forever, I mean, what you want to
Swift is the choice.
To be honest, the fair to see there. I mean, I think I made it quite clear in the letter that I wrote, because I'm happy to say it was me that wrote it, I have no problem at all with that. And I'm glad to say that at least one councillor acknowledged my right to my opinion on that. Which was very grateful for. I won't mention getting plants just like or these comments which I have wrote down, but I think we've covered that, so I'm more than happy with that. I'm just going to have a quick thing about the precept. You know, we're here to represent our residents. You know, so I see no reason why I shouldn't be allowed to speak for on behalf of the residents. I'm not saying I'm speaking for every single resident, of course I'm not. But I'm speaking for a proportion of the residents that I don't think were given a voice. And also speaking on myself, because I think 23% rise in the precept was not a good thing. And I also made a point, though I didn't cover it too much, about the towns that were chosen actually by Hamilton and Hexham, not really what you would class as Hexham like. By population is one thing, and the fact that some are rural and some are urban. If you were to look at something like Berwick-upon-Tweed and Stottsfield and Corbridge, you would find that they were actually very similar to the rate that we've got. Leaving that aside, of course, what I could have went on to, and I didn't go on to, the fact that about 99,000, because that's not just 99,000 from this year, it's next year and the year after. And if this council want to go on and meet to level up with Morpeth, which is what they said they would want to do, then you're going to have another 28 or 29% higher next year, or if you leave it over 2 years, it will be 31%, which gives a total of something, I haven't got any notes here, but round up to 60, 63%, something like that. Okay? So you're talking about almost £600,000 extra taken of the residents of Hexham. So I think I'm allowed to make a point for that. So I'm going to respect what they're asking for, not make it long, and steal that point.
Thank you. Penny, did you have your hand up?
No.
Oh, did you? Okay, so yeah, so right, we had that debate last month, and I really don't think we need to enter into that again. It was probably very long, it was a very wide-ranging question, really. Right, next session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In June 2018, the minutes, if you refer to the minutes, I brought up about the problem with the Wentworth toilets. And I was much pleased to see about a fortnight ago that someone appears to be going to do something with them. And I was just wondering if there was a date when this would start and probably be completed.
Right, Barry, I've got some brilliant news for you. You know, this is your favourite subject. Mine is also. Toilets. We finally had a toilet tour. So the leader of the council, Glenn Sanderson, and cabinet member for toilets, John Riddle, I'm sure he's got a better title than that. Councillor Trevor Sesford, Councillor Suzanne Zakin, and I, along with an officer, toured the 3 toilets in the town, namely Seal, St Mary's Wine, and Wentworth. So St Mary's Wine has been closed for 7 years, which was even a shock to me, so I thought it would be 4, but it's actually 7. But there was talk that that would be brought back to life and a refurb there, and there's also going to be a refurbishment of the Wentworth toilets. So this means that the Seal and the ones at Town Green are not included in that. obviously, one step at a time. So it is pleasing that County Council are looking to make an investment in the Wentworth toilet and really saving areas.
Do we have a date? No. I was just asking, would they consider making some better ventilation that exists now, because the windows never seem to be open, some are seem to be fixed, closed,
Sure, all the same.
without being procedures, I would like to suggest that whoever may have the honour of opening up may cut a ribbon made of toilet roll. I do have a second question, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Dave.
If I'm allowed.
Oh, yes. Did you want to come in?
Once we come back, actually, it's something you raised last month, but I think that's going to be the next question. So,
Oh, sorry.
But it was about
On the A695 road from Hexham to Corbridge, in between Arnold Clark and the agricultural store, there's a pedestrian refuge in the middle of the road. And as you travel into Hexham from Corbridge, the display on the island has been knocked over and there's no reflector or anything. And I think it could be a bit of a drag.
Oh, well, thanks for that. Councillor Ashton,
Yes, I want to pick that up. But to feedback on your last question about stickle footpath, I know the footpath on the said below, by the way. And
To me?
yes, to you directly. And we saw a few footpaths that day. We went to stickle, and he said that it's not convex enough. The original road that's underneath it, we got back to it, we sort of scraped it to see, and it would undermine the intention to put on a whole new layer of gravel, and it drains really well, and we'll keep an eye on it, but that's pass that back to you.
So we're Wellingtons when you go there.
Well, it's been on a dry day, so we were lucky, but I can see how it could get on, but it seems to drain off the side really well, so we don't want to put it down straight to
Right, and do you put that as a feedback into the minutes so everyone can?
Yeah, we'll do that. Right, any more questions there? Anyone just wants to take it? Right, okay. Last week, so go on.
Just want to add a very small bit to the
Oh,
also what please about that.
yes.
I mean, that's at the end, and I'm struggling to hear everything in the end. And that was that the time group and the single toilets and the other toilets are also going to be regularly rostered for heavy steam cleaning. And the other first two I said are going to be the heavy steam cleaning again, and being stripped up the tiles that are there in the sealed toilets, and they're going to look at getting a ramp, which I know Susanna is on the boat, towards the girls' toilets if it's sealed. Because the other ones are either always got it in or need ramps, of course. So actually all four will be looked at, just full refurbishment for the two the mayor said, and the other one will be the possibility of extra better lighting, but that's dependent.
Thank you. Good. Excellent. Right, the declarations, apologies for absence. No. Declarations of interest, anyone? Yep. Good. 4 to agree the minutes. On accuracy, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so sign. Any matters arising, anybody? Stephen?
Thank you. I must express some disappointment from last month's meeting.
Which item are you talking about?
I'm talking about the skate park, sorry. At the meeting itself, I was quite pleased that Hexham TV and the Courant were here, because I specifically mentioned, and councillors will correct me if I'm wrong, that the awarding of an £81,000 grant was something I've been heavily involved in. That's helped write the application form. It was submitted through the town council, and I asked specifically for it not to be reported, because that would set the hairs running, my expression, if you remember it correctly, and that would put extra pressure on delivering the project as a whole. Forgive me, Mr. Mayor, the inside page of the grant specifically mentioned the fact that the Town Council had been involved in getting £81,000 towards £150,000 project. That's not, if that had been the case, I would have preferred you at the time to simply say, no, I'm going to mention it's great news. But I went away from that meeting, and as you may recall, Mr. Mayor, I actually congratulated you on chairing the meeting because everybody had to say, I don't have a problem with an increase in the precepts, because that's what we voted for. But I wish we hadn't mentioned them. Exactly what we're saying has come to fruition, in the sense it has set a number of hairs running. There is questions being asked, and they need to be asked until we've got something complete. When I've always done grant applications, you always announce it when you know you're going to deliver it, and there's still a long way to go between the hand and the mouth, and it could slip by the way. Everybody would look foolish. Hexham Youth Initiative, me, and the Town Council. So I think that was an error of judgment. The second point is more serious. It upset me more than anything else I've ever been involved in this Town Council. I helped write that skate park application, and all along for 3.5 years I've been involved with meeting with kids on a number of occasions, sometimes going backwards in terms of meetings, but that application belongs to the young people of Hexham. It belongs to the young people of Hexham Youth Initiative. And Ginny was with me at a meeting of Hexham Youth Initiative where I stood up and said these exact words. This skate park doesn't belong to the Town Council, it belongs to the young people. It was inspired by them, it was led by them, and ultimately it was delivered by them. And I found it really upsetting that there's so much positiveness within this Town Council, and I tip my hat to people who've done great projects, Greener Hexham, bandstand projects. If you wanted to rally around the concept of a rate increase in the Town Council, that's what you should be saying. You shouldn't be saying that the Hexham Town Council is getting a £150,000 skate park when it's not contributed from the precepts. One single penny of increase in the precepts has not gone to that skate park. And if I was, I don't want to be dramatic, but I've got £99.79 here. I don't want to feel like the Duke on some antiques programme and counting the money out. But out of the £99.79 budget for this year, not one single penny has gone to that skate park. Yet we read the Hexham Quran, and it's second in contribution to the skate park, 150,000. We haven't contributed one penny. Now, if your arguments are sound, you can stand by the reasons why the precept is increased. You can stand by every other thing. I've avoided all this time, and that's why I didn't want it mentioned. I didn't want it to become a political football, but it's been brought right in. There was £25,000 given by the previous Town Council, of which you were one, Derek, and others ran the room, and which we all voted for. That wasn't from this year's budget. No, let's claim it like a Saturday morning matinee cowboy, smacking our bottoms and claiming it as our own. It doesn't belong to this Town Council's present administration. We can congratulate, Hexham Youth Initiative. And what bothers me more than anything else, so much good work. Some of you may consider me an opponent, an opposition. I'm not an opposition to this Town Council. I'm very much supportive of it. But as such, we've got to be honest in what we do. And I don't think we've been honest in this. I think we've claimed it as our own. We've stolen it from the young people, not contributing a penny and claiming it as a £150,000 investment. I wrote the applications some 2.5 years ago. We started the application, we got it through the first 25,000. I targeted the section 106 money, and others have led from there on. I think it's a great mistake. It would be a shame for this council to claim credit for something that doesn't really belong to them. It belongs to the young people of Hexham. Should be a shame on this council, and it'd be a shame on this membership if anybody tried to claim credit for that, for an increase in the precincts. Absolutely, fundamentally, you know, if you asked me for a penny from my thoughts, that was it. You haven't put a penny into this project, so let's not claim it from the young people of Hexham. Let's just acknowledge the fact that this is a good thing going ahead and acknowledge that that scheme belongs to them. Thank you.
Right, I'll respond to that because I just totally disagree with all of it, to be honest. So first of all, so the 81,000, this is a democratic organisation that was voted this money toward that scheme. And say, keep it quiet because one, the Hexham Current didn't attend the last meeting and Hexham TV wasn't here. So let's keep it quiet because none of the media was here. Is the nonsense. It was spoken at an open meeting, and therefore it is public knowledge. And I'm not in the position, and I don't believe this council is, of keeping things quiet from the public. What we told them was where we are with that. The second point is this: the council doesn't start and end. The council goes on forever. So that 25,000 that the council gets, and remember, it's not the council's money, it's the public's money. The public gives the money to the council like it does for all government. Government don't own money, all the others are the agent, the public money, and that's what it is. That we have agreed as the town council as a continuum have agreed to honour the £25,000 decision, and that's what we've done. We've got another bid in, you know, fingers crossed, let's see where that goes. But I would like to wager that if this town council needs to step in and make up any shortfalls, I would like to think that we will do that. So I'm not going to go any further debate on it. I think arguing, spinning around on an argument, that's nonsensical. Let's look at the benefits here. We're going to deliver a skate park for the youth of this town, and that's what we want to do. And arguing the toss over who got what and who said what and who said what and who is a nonsense. We're just all with it. No. We've had enough debate on that. Right. Any more matters for Ryan? Okay. Right. We'll move on. Right. So we're going to receive a presentation from our friends at Climate Emergency Centre. So Stephen Ridd will give us a 10-minute, up to 10 minutes presentation, and then we'll have a short few questions.
It's going to get faster and faster.
Yeah.
The longer we go on, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not normally like this, it's normally quickly, Ken.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Steve Ridd, and I'm here tonight just to talk a little bit about the proposed Hexham Climate Emergency Centre. And to kind of figure a little bit on what a climate emergency centre is. They're a relatively new idea that's spreading across the country in response to climate ecological emergency and social inequalities. They act as a focal point for communities to reconnect, to set up projects and to build resilience. Their aim is to find solutions to the climate and social issues that we face and to empower communities so they can be more than bystanders when it comes to what's happening around them. So, what are they? They're solutions-based rather than ideological, which I'm sure will be to everyone. They're community-led, and we've begun a community consultation, and this will be ongoing so that we can keep in touch with what's needed in our community. The focus will be on local needs in the face of global change. And thirdly, to come together as groups and individuals to share what we have to build a better future. Now, doing the right thing. We all want to do the right thing. And 300 or so councils have declared climate emergency around the country. But they're often hamstrung by lack of funds or the fact that so many of those decisions don't come within the hands of local councils such as this. And that's where the CEC can help. It's designed really to engage the wider community in driving meaningful action on climate crisis and on social inequality. So looking at just the four areas that we've kind of highlighted there, and pulling one from each. In education, we're hoping to engage organisations such as Citizens Advice, HK, and other organisations that can provide that level of quality advice to do talks, present talks on energy efficiency, help that's available, how to access it, whether or not to switch provider, probably not at the moment. In terms of engagement, the social enterprise side will be looking at supporting new startup green businesses by offering a low-cost office or workshop space. Often when a business starts up, they can't afford or don't even need to begin with a full-scale setup unit of their own. Maybe a few hours here, a few hours there, and that's where the CEC can help. In terms of our culture, it's about changing from that culture of extraction, consumption, and waste, and bringing in more of a circular economy of repurposing, recycling, and repair. And we've got someone already who's really keen to set up a repair cafe within the CEC. And lastly, practical solutions. That's what we're after. Practical solutions for people of Hexham, such as reuse, growing your own food, energy efficiency. We're intending to make use of one of the many empty buildings in Hexham through what's called a meanwhile lease. So that's where a building stands empty and the owner is prepared to lease it to us until they find a commercial tenant to come in, at which point we're off for a new home. So that's kind of how we're looking at basing ourselves. There's quite a few reasons why a building owner would want to do this. First of all, it protects the premises. There's lots of people coming in and out. There's lights going on and off. There's obviously a lot of things going on. So it's not just an empty building sat there waiting to be vandalised. It helps build stronger relationships between council, community, and it's an opportunity for that property owner to give something back to the community. It also can save them money in terms of business rates. If we set up our kind of emergency centre as a kick, we can get 40% relief on business rates. As a charity, up to 80%, or at the discretion of the council, up to 100% off business rates. What has happened elsewhere around the country is that the money that the building owner has saved on that has been partly then donated back to the Climate Emergency Centre as startup funds. So everyone wins in that situation. There's a lot of benefits for the community too, to generate income streams through green businesses, local projects and space hire. To help groups and individuals work together and grow through sharing what we have, and to build stronger communities through fostering the habit of mutual aid. Provides a space for people to come together. There are a whole host of benefits for councils too, from practical benefits such as having the building occupied and revitalising neighbourhoods, to being able to demonstrate that we're taking concrete steps to tackle the climate and ecological emergency and social inequality. There are a whole host of reasons why everyone benefits from having a climate emergency centre in Hexham. We've begun already carrying out a community consultation. It's early stages of it, but it's important that we contact groups and individuals in the area who want this project to be community-led. People may not be familiar with having so much input to a project at the beginning, but that's kind of how we want to run it. And the responses we've got so far, it's early days, are really heartening. Almost 90% of respondents want to be involved in the establishment of the CEC right from the outset, and we're communicating with those people now to see how we can work best with them. This diagram is a bit awkward to see that, but when asked what people wanted to see from the CEC, not surprisingly, low cost and accessibility was there, but also an information space where people can see what they're eligible for and how they can take part. Communal or meeting spaces, networking opportunities between businesses and organisations as well as individuals, and skill sharing. So these are all really practical things that people wanted to see set up in the town. A healthy proportion also wanted to help volunteer to run it on a day-to-day basis, which is really good news for us. And over 70% said that either they as individuals or their groups would want to use the Climate Emergency Centre. So that's really heartening, I think, that there's such a positive response that we've had so far. This will carry on, the sort of consultation will carry on, it's not a one-off by any means. There have been centres set up all around the country. In Ilford, there's a group that have taken on a huge home-based store. It's enormous, it's like a warehouse there. And they've set up office and meeting spaces. They've got a repair cafe, they have music and IT facilities going on there, drama workshops, performance spaces. So it's enormous. And you bring that down then to the other end of the spectrum, the Talking Tree Cafe, which is a community cafe in Staines. Really small space, there's an old betting shop. We've just got a community cafe and a meeting space. So anything that's possible. Again, just some photos of the kind of things that go on from arts, IT, reuse, repair, film show, performance, all these kinds of things. We're really proud to be part of the movement that is bringing this forward to face up to the climate crisis in our communities and to take action on it. We're currently talking to Northumberland County Council Estates team about potential sites that a number of community groups, as well as the CDC, are really keen to use. We're also talking to the County Council's climate change team, who are very enthusiastic to see the CDC happen as well. And we aim to work closely with Hexham Community Partnership within the town, and it may be possible for the community partnership to hold the lease for jointly used projects. I don't know, we're open to a conversation about this, so please talk to us. The slide that you knew was coming. What do they want? We want your endorsement. It means a lot to us to have your open support, whether that's in negotiations with other organisations or for our standing in the community. For liaising with County Council, it's really useful that we have clear channels of communication and that everybody knows where things are at, who's doing what. Grant funding, money always comes in handy, especially at the start-up phases of the project. And we'll be applying to yourselves, to county, to Carbon Homes Community Pot, and every other pot we can find. We're looking at equipment share or equipment loan schemes so that we can have everything set up so that we can benefit the community as quickly as possible once we're in. And your energy, your enthusiasm means a lot to us. We're an enthusiastic group and we are ready to support, serve and be led by our community. Thank you.
Perfect, 10 minutes. So well done. Right, has anybody got any questions? So we have 10 minutes.
That was great, thank you very much. And how timely? Because obviously the Town Council is on board in terms of the climate crisis. We've got money for Grow Hexham, which is the project with the circular economy. Yes. So we'll obviously would like to talk to you about that. But I just wanted to say that, and I hope that we can support you in any way that we can. That's me speaking personally. But the North of Tyne Combined Authority has got a fund which is about zero carbon and zero food waste, which Grow Hexham was partially funded under. But you're independent of the town council, and also your remit will be slightly different to the one. So if you want, it's current now. So you might want to have a look at it. And it comes under Space Hive. So if you go to Space Hive. So that's just a thought that I have because it's happening at the moment.
Are you able to pop a link through to Jane? And Jane, can you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
Is that okay, Jane? And then we've got access to fabulous. Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions?
Absolutely behind this kind of hub, as you know, helping behind the scenes with trying to facilitate meetings at the moment with county real estate team. So yes, I'm fully endorsing this all the way. I know exactly what space you're looking for, and yes, we're hoping to help you even better.
Fantastic.
Steve?
As you're well aware of, I'm a grant specialist, and being structured as such, are you in a position to, your own bank accounts, your own trustees, your own local organisation as such, to making sure that as much democratic as it can be and transparent? And, in order to do that, the town council will support you along with others. But are all those pieces of the jigsaw in place?
They're just about to drop in. We're having that conversation as to whether to be community interest company or CIO. One is very quick to set up, but doesn't have all the advantages. One is much slower to set up and has some advantages. So we're just kind of deciding which one to go for, and aware that certainly county council's got a whole team dedicated to helping out with all the paperwork on that side as well. So yeah,
Will it be based in Hexham? Will it be a physical presence, or?
that is the aim, is to be a physical presence in Hexham. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any
Sorry, I'd like to ask a question. I'm interested in the meanwhile leases because obviously in terms of your enterprise, that's fantastic, and especially if you can become a sort of, if you like, a platform for a range of organisations as well. But is it possible that the definition of meanwhile leases and how they operate could be either provided to the town council or from the town council to all the town councillors? Because we're having conversations all the time with people who will say, well, there's all those empty shops and we don't know what to do about them, and who are the gatekeepers, etc., etc. And this is a, albeit at the moment, temporary solution to getting people up and running and that community-based activities, then that would be really helpful. So I don't know, Jane, whether that information is available or...
I can hunt out the information I've got on new releases.
Yeah.
And I'll pop that through to Jane,
Great.
so that can be circulated around the council.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's obviously that balance between taking on private property where things might be a little bit less secure, perhaps a council property where we might be able, hopefully, to get a longer lease or a little bit more security.
Yeah, thank you.
So, you mentioned in your slide that you wanted or endorsement, or you're just asking that pretty spiritually at this moment in time?
That would be great. If, I don't know quite what the process is going to be for that. If it's something that the council does as a body agree to say, yes, we support this project within Hexham in the outline that we've been given, that would be a fabulous start, and then we can enter into conversations about details of where we go with all these things.
So do we go vote this time? General agreement. So can I ask if can I have a general agreement that in spirit, because obviously there's nothing physical yet. There's no project started and come to us for money or whatever, but in spirit to us as a town council support the centre, the climate emergency centre, being based in Hexham.
I've been further that, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Fabulous.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Taking on the apprentice. He just didn't get any money.
Not yet.
Right. So,
Feels like the worst that the case of Britain's got talent walking in front of There was only 3 of you. It's going to take me a little minute to wire this up, so amuse yourself by discussing whether or not Newcastle are going to stay up now. The Kerry trip is going to run. Let's work that one out while I
Unanimous, Chairman.
yes, so we've got a great idea how we think. So while this is getting set up, agenda item 13, and I wasn't hoping to have a long debate on this. To consider sending a letter of support to save the Carlisle Turkish baths from closure. I invite Alison Smith to do a quick explanation of what this is.
Okay, right, thank you.
Any chance you could,
Oh, yes, sorry. So a little while ago, I came across the Turkish baths in Carlisle and came to the realisation that they were at risk of closure. So Carlisle Council is proposing closing them from October this year when they open a brand new purpose-built leisure centre. The Turkish baths in Carlisle are one of only 12 in the country. And if you have a look online and look at the pictures, it's a fantastic place, one that I wasn't aware of. But there's a group that's established, the Friends of Carlisle, Victorian Pool and Turkish Baths. And they're trying to have it created, set it up as a charity and to run it as a community interest group. But they've got this vision which is brilliant, which is to maintain it running as it is, but also to have retail units in there, a cafe, and they're also highlighting the issue of hygiene poverty. And they're saying that there's a lot of awareness about food poverty, but not so much about hygiene poverty. And they would like to, as part of the renovation of the building, to introduce, how to describe it, high quality, affordable, ecological laundry and dry cleaning service, so that people in the local community can go along and use those. It said that 1 in 7 households with income below 35,000 live without at least one home appliance. So I just personally thought that it would be absolutely dreadful to lose it as a provision for that area. But also I just thought it was brilliant what they were wanting to do with their vision. So I just thought, would it be possible for the town council just to send a message of support to that group, just as a bit of solidarity, really, to say we support you.
Steve?
I don't disagree with anything you say, Alison. I know how passionate you are about such things. What concerns me is that this is a business in a different county, and we couldn't end up like in my day, the 1970s student union, where we're offering solidarity to different parts of the world and everything. So however good it is in terms of principle, which it is, I don't think this town council can support any, not just yours, such campaigns if it's outside the boundaries of Hexham. I'm sorry.
So I did ask that question, because I had that first question when this was approached, and I did ask to talk about that. So, because I have the same concerns. However, legally we can, or morally we can't do that. So, right, did somebody legally, please?
Yeah, I'm minded to agree, actually. I think if you personally, as individual councillors, want to get involved in that campaign, I think that's fine. I just struggle to see, as Hexham Town Council, as part of Northumberland, whether that's a good use of our time and energy As adorable as it is, I think if we as individuals want to support that campaign, that's great. I personally would agree with Steve on this.
Anybody else?
I certainly say the same thing that on a personal level, I'd be happy to.
Okay, so we've got a proposal on the table. Do we want to send a letter from the town council to support this or not? Or to consider? Do we want to do that? Do we say that's the no, or?
I think it's true.
Yeah. Well, so I think it has to be focused. So there's still many different things. So the concentration is who supports a letter supporting the campaign? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against because of what's been raised by Councillor Paul, Councillor Scott, that I think it's beyond our remit as a town council. However, individuals can write letters of support. Yeah.
I'm strange on this because I don't want to not support so I don't really want to vote against it. I totally agree with the students. I'd rather not vote if that's all right.
No, fair enough, go with that. But could I just ask that if anybody does want to vote on a personal level, if you go onto Facebook, there's a link where you can sign the petition.
So could we ask it as a compromise? Could you
Circulate that, yes.
Definitely. Just circulate that, and I'm sure you have. I mean, I'll certainly do it as an individual.
Okay.
If you think global, you think about Carlisle.
It's a step too far.
Okay. Peter, so we have a presentation now from Peter Meyer, who is from the County Council. He's a senior programme officer, and this is for the High Street, Hexham's High Street Action Zone, Hexham High Street Heritage Action Zone. You can see our 3 goals of that. And he's just going to give us an update on how far he is with all his groups.
Not little else to say, he's pretty much done it now, that's all I am, that's what I'm here to talk about. I've got a little bit of a cold, so my voice carrying to the back. Karen, we know each other, you can nod if your voice is carrying to the back, it is, okay. Good evening to you all, I know a handful of you, others it's the first time I've met you, welcome. So the Hexham High Street Heritage Action Zone is a bit of a mouthful, and it's known colloquially as the HAS. Government-funded project, filtered through Historic England, accountable body Northumberland County Council with partners of the Town Council and the Hexham Community Partnership. The need for the scheme was defined, 4 years ago now, possibly 4 years ago when some of the first work was put together. And it was to revitalise Hexham's historic town centre into a more attractive, engaging and vibrant place to live, work, invest and visit. I'm aware I've only got 10 minutes as well, so I'm not going to literally go word for word through this. I'm sure you can read it. How will the Heritage Action Zone help? I think the first step in it really was to acknowledge that the town has lots of strengths. You know, we're not starting from base level here. I think it acknowledged that there are existing strengths and to build on those strong foundations, if you will, and to just arrest the decline. I think that's the point that was trying to be made. The objectives of the scheme, that is slightly wordy, but they're all valuable objectives of the scheme. This really is key. At the moment, there is an at-risk warning against the Heritage Action Zone from the High Street. So the main target is to have that removed. Revitalising, enhancing the physical condition. COVID gets a mention, of course, because it does all the time now, doesn't it? But stimulate and accelerate the commercial investment. Engage the local community and increase the knowledge, interest and appreciation of town centres, heritage and culture. My particular role is very much focused on objectives 6 and 7. I do the community engagement more than anything else. We have a colleague in conservation, which some of you will know, Val Robson. Val is very heavily involved in the building grant scheme and the public realm, more on which in a moment. But my 3 days a week is very much spent around the community engagement side of things. The component parts of the scheme are the building grant scheme, 4 years programme, basically, which has now been pushed into 3 years through COVID. Repurposing and improving buildings in the target area, Priest Popple, Battle Hill and Cattle Market. The public realm, the streetscape, if you will, focused again on that key corridor. Okay. Community engagement is maximising participation, and there is a national and a regional cultural programme. We haven't yet had anything appear in Hexham from the national cultural programme, I'm sure that we will, but we have a fantastic local cultural programme run out of Queen's Hall by Katie Taylor and her colleagues. So the building grant scheme, to date, 2 grant offers have been made and works will begin as soon as contractors and materials are available. Terrible trouble getting contractors, and the amount of materials that are not available at the moment is really quite frightening. Just on the little estate I live on, the fences that are still down from Arwen, which is what 2 storms ago, I guess, isn't it? You know, people can't even get people to fix the fences at the moment. The positive news is that there's a very good, very strong pipeline of applications coming through. So that's literally from the point where there's an initial conversation with a property owner or tenant, right through to the point where an application is being granted. There's a nice pipeline we're working its way through. And the scheme does run for another 2 years yet. Indications are that we'll be able to spend all of that grant funding. We like to spend money. Public realm improvements, Southern Green has been engaged to put together 3 proposals. They're pretty much done. That will include street furniture, sympathetic street lighting, heritage street lighting. The footpaths, improvements to the Eastgate Junction is going to be included. And they're going to be put to public consultation. It says in the spring, I don't want to pin ourselves down too much and set ourselves up to fail. I think end of March. I think by end of March we'll be out of public consultation in that. Please don't hold me to it if it's early April, but we're aiming for end of March, early April on that one. This is the stuff I know more about. This is the community engagement side of things. So the Digital Heritage Trail went live ahead of schedule. That was 2 or 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I think. And as of last Friday, it now has its audio part. We didn't have the audio part initially. That's now there, which is great. It makes it more accessible to everybody in general, so that's lovely. It's available through Trail Tale, which the young people tell me is something called an app. Not sure what that means, but if you know what an app is, you can download it from Trail. It's great. We've had a look at it. It is a very good thing. It's working well. Video memories we filmed just last Monday in one of the other rooms in here, the Priors. It was great. 5 interviewees. They were all a little bit north of 80. Bless them. It was fantastic. The memories that they were sharing with us were just filmed professionally, and it's currently going through an editing process. Once the editing process is done, once it's all been made to look as good as it can, it will then go on all social media, the council's social media, this council's social media, Northumberland Archives social media. Heritage skills training, the Church's Conservation Trust, a lady called Eleanor Johnson, has been engaged to deliver this throughout the next 2 years, this year and 2023. She's only just been engaged, she's been with us about a month or so, and is still putting a programme together. But that's going to involve working with schools, with colleges, with the public as a whole. Historical research training, the last 2 Saturdays, again in the Prize Hall, has each had a group of 10 learners come in. Sue Wood from Northumberland Archives has spent 3 hours giving them all the skills necessary to use IT to do research. Based on buildings, actually, but the same skills apply to doing your own ancestral type research as well. And each of those groups in 20-something of February and the 5th of March, they're going to go into Woodhorn, to the actual archives themselves, to do the physical research. So not they've done the IT, they're now going to learn to actually flick through the records and come up with a paperwork, if you will. 2 exhibitions ongoing. I hope 1 or 2 of you have seen it, and I hope the rest of you will have a look. Queen's Hall downstairs is the J.P. Gibson photographic exhibition, and upstairs is an exhibition of what are known as gold maps, which is basically a bird's eye view of the shopping area. in different years showing who was occupying each retail space. So the oldest one we've got of those is 1971, runs through to I think 2014, 2016 is the most current. These things still go on, they're made every year. But I find it interesting, but then I'm a geek, you might not find it interesting. And the school competitions, a couple of your colleagues and I have been going around all the first schools today, haven't we, Trevor? Yeah. Trevor and Suzanne have accompanied me today. We've been to see the 3 first schools, and in each of the first schools, reception years 1, 2, 3 and 4 have produced the most magnificent stuff for us. They'll set a task of giving a representation of Hexham High Street 100 years ago and in 100 years' time. And I wanted to see aliens, and we saw aliens. So there's no shortage of aliens in 100 years' time. Also, the high school have entered a different competition, which was a writing competition, 500-word story. We've got lots and lots of entries into that, which is magnificent. And Suzanne, you did volunteer to help me judge that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Christmas holidays. Great.
The cultural programme, I'm not hands-on with it, but I'm aware of what's happening within it. It's been organised and run by Hexham's Cultural Network, which basically is run through the Queen's Hall and through Katie Taylor. The actual pilot event for the programme was the Animating Hexham project, which I hope some of you saw. Yeah, you aren't see it, then you're nodding away. Yeah, it's brilliant, wasn't it? And the video from it's outstanding, so that's really promising. Plans for 2022 is going to be repeating that Animating Hexham because it went so well. Also, repeat the Lantern Parade, which had far more people involved than we expected. And they keep changing the name of it, but it started life as Secret Sheep, which, yeah. But it's an art-based thing where the sheep are going to be pretty much life-size. They're going to be colourful, they have diagrams and designs on them, and they'll be hidden around various parts. Originally Hexham, that's now spread to the Northumberland as a whole, and there are other regions interested in this. Kate is a force of nature. This could spread national, I'm not sure yet. But look out for the Secret Sheep coming sometime this year. And was that anywhere near 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's fine. No, it is relaxed. No, silly. So thank you. Just for Trevor's knowledge, myself and Trevor, Suzanne and Mike attend a meeting called Hexham Hub, where we speak monthly with Peter and others about what's actually going on with our buildings in Hexham, or strategic buildings in Hexham, so we do get an update. But we really thought it would be wise to have regular updates from Peter to either the full council or some of our subcommittees on a fairly regular basis, because this is a really important programme of works that affects many people, and I know us all as councillors repeatedly get what's happening with that building, Derek, or what's happening with this one, it looks pretty awful and all that type of stuff. So we all know that we get those. So it's good that we've got the Hexham Outreach looking at improving buildings, but also it's much broader than that, with the events. The Lantern Parade last year I think that was my favourite event of 2021. I didn't know what to expect, but it was a stunning success. But also the other things that are going on, the photography presentation that's on at the moment in Queen's Hall. So is there any questions from anybody? So Ginny, take it first.
I'd like to know, I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to ask.
If you're not allowed, then don't go for it.
Been awarded to for the buildings improvements.
That will be made very public.
And what accountability is there for the recipients?
I'll take them in order. That will be made public at such time as the grant is physically being claimed and acted on, because until such time we can't guarantee things would happen. So it will become public knowledge as and when the building work has been done and receipts have been handed in and so on and so forth. Your second question really is what accountability lies with the individuals. There is clawback over a 3-year period if it's not maintained. Is that okay? And everything's paid retrospectively as well and inspected before it's been paid. So if it doesn't meet the requirements of set out in the first place, that invoice doesn't get paid.
Right.
So it's not, here's a bunch of money, go and do something with it,
Yeah.
as you would imagine.
See,
I'm a little bit disappointed by Pizzazz. Previous mayor was very keen, and the town council contributed £40,000 towards Pizzazz. And there's a lack of transparency, some of the questions that from around the room, that, you know, where's the money gone? You know, we're 3 years into it and we can't see any visible signs. So I think there's a promotional side to Pizzazz that needs to be addressed. I think it needs to be addressed in full council meeting so we can relay it on. There's Hexham TV, there's Quran, you know, so that message gets out. Still slightly sceptical. There's some great community groups as you come across, and a lot of people on both sides of the room represents those community groups. And we'd like to bid into that process, you know, in terms of how can we get a group of funders together that can present a project that's community-based. So as you're speaking there, and I mentioned it to the town plan previously, we've got a television at the Hexham Community Centre. Now, it would be great if we rolled over all those old photographs of Hexham in the past, or got kids involved. But it's just like joining up the dots. How do we come to you and bid for something? And, you know, what is the mechanism for doing that? That's my first question. The second one is quite short. I was involved in something called Battery City Challenges, as it was then, in the early 90s. And the problem with City Challenge was, however good it was, which it was, at the end it sort of faded into oblivion. And so when this project comes to an end, what is the legacy for his house? Will there be monies left over? You know, does it attract other sorts of funders because it is his house? Or will it simply, a guillotine comes down, spend the money by the state because we're spending it on something else in the future?
I'll do my best. If I don't answer something, it's because I've forgotten, because it was a few bits to it, so remind me. So firstly, we went live October 2020. So what's that? 18 months into it, I guess, something like that. The application process is being worked out as it goes along, if you like. Don't say too much, but grants are being made, if you like, but whether it's COVID, whether it's Brexit, whether it's just the amount of work that's going on through storm damage, whatever you want to put it down to, we have not yet seen a development physically happen and the job and the work be finished. And until that point, no money changes hands. So as no money's changed hands, we're not in a position to say what is currently being offered to people. It wouldn't be right to do so. It will be incredibly open. As and when money is spent, will all be available on the website. The website's available through Northumberland County Council now, but it doesn't tell you a lot because none of the grants have worked their way into being a finished job. But they will all be going on there. I'm probably missing a big chunk out, so you'll remind me in a minute. Legacy is fantastic. Legacy is so important because there is a danger that in March 2024, the money's spent, the whole thing's packed away in a suitcase and goes away, and however many years down the line, deterioration maybe starts to set in again. It's hugely important what's the legacy, and it's something that I'm very much trying to work on now as we go forward. In a very small way, just teaching people how to research their own heritage, to suddenly have more of an understanding and pride in their own heritage in their own town. That's going to play a part. Of course, I haven't mentioned on the briefing yet, because I only started working on it back end of last week, is something called capacity training, where we're going to try and put together a training day, it'll be a full day, where various people like Architectural Heritage Fund, Historic England, a few others that are escaping my mind at the moment, will be available in a workshop scenario. We will invite any organisations that currently exist or any groups of people who are looking to become organised, and that will cover how do you constitute, how do you get together, how do you find feasibility funding for the project that you've got in mind, how do you then start taking that feasibility into grant funding applications, what a grant funder is looking for. And how can you run those projects without having a humongous body like Northumberland County Council as your accounting body? So how can you do it as organisations alone? That capacity training, I think, well, I know that capacity training will go a long way to building a legacy where the town can start looking at future programmes once the Hazards has packed and gone away. What's the big tricky question I missed out?
If I wanted, and I'll be selfish, as the community centre, if I wanted to be involved in one of your projects, tell me where I go, who I see, what form I fill in, and how long will it take to get what I want.
Well, the community centres out with the high street, is it not?
But this is my argument. A community centre serves the community, and what City Challenge did and others was recognise that even though it might be outside the area, it serves that. So if we wanted pictures of the High Street or Battle Hill or
I can sort you that
we
in.
can put it on a television
Yeah.
in a community centre, that's 50 yards down the road.
I can do that. Sorry, I may have misunderstood where you're going, so the answer's going to be better than I first thought. I'd misunderstood and I thought you were looking at funding for the building of the community centre. Fine, because that was going to be an issue. If you want access to some of the photographs that we've managed to dredge up, some of the records that we're sourcing, yeah, absolutely you can. Email me. It'll be on, yeah, okay. We can make sure that you've got my contact details. I'm happy to share any of that stuff with you. As long as I've got the copyright on it, I'm happy to share that very, very much. We did try and involve the community centre actually. Do you remember on there I talked about that memories project where we had people video? We were looking to do, is it Tuesday nights where there's something on in the community centre where an older generation and the younger were coming together?
Yeah.
Reaching out, no, what's it called?
We've got the former community centre manager sat at the end, so.
Yeah, we can tell you what it is that I'm trying to think. Thank you, open arms. And we're going to use that for part of the filming because all that was marvellous, mixing the generations up and having. Unfortunately, COVID, open arms hasn't really kicked back in again yet, has it? You know.
Well, our eyes are open, man.
Well, maybe next year, because I'll try and repeat some of these things again. If I do another video memories, hopefully by that time, open arms will be going again. We'll go to the community centre and film things from there. So the only time I lock in to Priest Popple, Battle Hill Cattle Market is on the building ground scheme of the public ground. But happy to do things around the town, absolutely.
So things like memories clubs, people who suffer from Alzheimer's and all that sort of thing, that we could bring to you as a resource.
Just email me, ask me what I've got, I'll tell you what I've got. No problem.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely no problem.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
And that offer's open to you all, by the way.
Yeah. And we'll look to see you on a regular basis. Hopefully next time we come around, we'll have some deliverables for us.
Don't hold me to that. Yes, I know that.
Great. Right. So, Peter, I'll let you on booking.
Thank you, Alan.
Right. Right. Number 8 is mayor's announcements. So I've mentioned the toilet tour. We've already done that. We have an invite to the mayor's reception on the 23rd of March, where we'll be awarding the honorary Stewart Award for those who still work in our voluntary sector. We had a visit from Colonel Johnny Cooper, and we've got a copy of the cemetery. Just chat about certain things. Claire Wandy, who's our new project officer, and I met with several people from Hexham Community Partnerships to discuss the outline of events in the coming year, where there's synergies and where we can operate together. So that's what that conversation has started. So that's looking good. A busy agenda for next year. Well, that always starts to turn things up. I had unfortunate news that Councillor George Ferguson, former Councillor George Ferguson, former Mayor of the town, unfortunately died several weeks ago, and I did get a communication from his family asking for asked for me to do the eulogy at the Trinity Methodist just a few days ago, and I was several people attended, including Trevor Esford and several former councillors at the time for that. And we also had the sad news that Richard Borden, who was also a former councillor, former mayor of the town, used to own Borden's Antiques, which is where Ralph and Neely are, he used to own that building. So he was quite an important person for the town. Also died just a few weeks ago. So I'm going to ask you to just have a minute silence for those two former councillors. Thank you so much. Next item is accounts of payment. I'll go through page by page and you shout out if you have anything. Page 9, page 10, page 11. Yeah. All right. We've got a 3. Next item is 10. Councillors Ellis, Aiken and Ward. So this was debated last month to establish a working group regarding the former Hexham school site. So on page 12 you have the proposals. So I'll invite John, I'll invite you to speak.
Thank you. I hope that the Town Council will accept this proposal. It's proposed that the Town Council creates a working party which will work towards producing a set of proposals for the former Hexham Middle School site, which will benefit Hexham and its residents, and which will be able to influence decisions on the use of the site to be made by the County Council. The working party will focus on maximising the proportion of affordable homes to be built and made available to local people when the site is developed. Defining other local, cultural and leisure needs for the site. Researching the relevance and usefulness of the determination of the site as an asset of community value and opportunities for asset transfer of the site or part of it. Corresponding and cooperating with other interested parties, including consultation, engagement and discussion with Hexham residents. Formulating and representing to Northumberland County Council a strong case for local involvement in the planning for the development of this key site. Suggested that the working group will comprise of 4 town councillors in consultation with interested parties. It will report back regularly to the Planning and Infrastructure Committee and through it to the full council.
Okay, thank you. So I had a hand up from Trevor to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think it was
Like I said,
I thought you did. And I said there was a couple of minor points that I wasn't too happy with, but on the whole I support it, and those minor points don't exist now, so I'm more than happy to support this project.
Mr. Mayor, before Trevor spoke, I was going to say the same thing. Congratulations to both of you. I know you've put a lot of work into this. My only concern is that you're limiting it to 4. And the politics that go with the 4. For me, anybody who wants to be a member of that group should be able to be a member. That's the only slight amendment. If you could incorporate that in your motion, I'd support it otherwise.
You okay with that?
Yes, it's simply 4 because I know how busy everyone is, and it's another committee.
It might still be 4, John. It might still be 4 at the end of But I would want to exclude 1,000, if it was 5 instead of 5,000.
But maybe if there's a core of 4 and anyone who wants to come along because you know when the meetings are going to take place, etc., you could join in.
It was just determining who was for.
Yeah.
Anything? No? Okay, so we go to the vote. Do we vote? So those in favour of the motion? Unanimous? Excellent. Well done. The next one is Councillor Alison Smith. Proposal that the Hexham Business Group, supported by Hexham Town Council, take over managing the Tuesday market from Northumberland.
Number 11.
Number 11. Councillor Alison Smith proposed to employ a retail consultant to offer some guidance on future planning for Hexham. Alison.
Thank you. Yeah, a little while ago, I came across a man called Graham Soult, who's a retail consultant. I was reading about him in one of the Newcastle papers, and he's been doing work for Durham. He's employed by Durham Parish Council for a number of days a month, and they're focusing on Silver Street in Durham, which used to be one of the key retail streets that's lost a lot of retail properties. And so he's been working with them, and I just thought, I wonder if he might be able to do something to help us. He's an architect by profession. He's got a master's in planning, and he's a fellow of the Institute of Place Management. So I mentioned this to our mayor, who said, just get in touch and see what he says. So I had quite a long discussion with him, and he was very helpful. And what he suggested for us was a session called Unlocking Your Place. And it's basically, he facilitates a session that lasts about 2 to 3 hours long. It would be held in Hexham, and he would gather together stakeholders with an interest in Hexham. So that would include people like members from the town council, members from the county council, commercial landlords, which is an excellent one to have on board because they have a lot of influence around the town centre, residents and anybody else kind of who wanted to be involved. He would do research on the town itself prior to the meeting. Just for him to get an idea of Hexham. He would facilitate the 2 to 3 hour session on the day, and then would create a post-session report, which would be fed back and shared. He's a very interesting guy. He's quite dynamic. He's quite young, and he's a member of the government's High Street Task Force. So he's quite influential. The cost of that session and the pre and post reports would be £800, but no VAT charged. And I just thought that might be a good way for us possibly to come together and create a bit of a vision for Hexham.
Right, so questions?
I think it's a great idea. Just what we need.
Yeah, it's not a question either, it's actually, £800 is a tiny sum if it could help regenerate business in Hexham town centre.
Yeah, I also think it's a good idea, and I think if we proceed with it, I think we should also communicate that out to the press as well. If that question comes up. I was talking to Derek the other day in the council what's happening with Hexham. So if you want to see us doing something, and this is a positive action with a positive product at the end that we can say, well, we've looked into it, here's a report. And it will also bring people together as well. So.
Well, that's it. I mean, he did say there's a lot of value in just getting people together in a room together.
Yeah, there's never anything wrong with getting information and data about it. The only thing I will ask you to do, or certainly ask you to inquire, is to see what the county council has available. The county council has lots of data over the years of doing all sorts of data collection through various projects and that have gone on in the town. and they have people who work on this as well. Now, it might well be this chap is offering something that isn't available, in which case I'm not going to actually argue about it. And I'm not really arguing now, I'm just thinking that what we don't want is a bit of repetition, and it may well be that there's something out there already exists. So maybe.
Well, I could suggest then that he contacts NCC for the prior information. Well, to save him a bit of work. But yeah, I mean, the focus of it is to bring us together to create a vision moving forward.
Sorry, but I think that, yeah, the nature of high streets and retail is changing. And what we have is quite an old-fashioned model of where a town centre should be, and hopefully we can shed some light onto how, you know, make it more, future-proof, as it were.
No, future-proof.
No, so just one issue, I was, oh, sorry, John.
Just pointing at Penny.
No, I think it's a really good idea, and I think it's so timely because we've just had Pizzazz here, which feeds into all of that. We're talking about meanwhile races, we're talking about all sorts of things. But if we pay somebody to look at the existing data, so that he's got an idea about what the demographics are and all the rest of it, then he has this community consultation. And then we make sure that some of those key people are absolutely there and who are already, if you like, helping to describe what the town can be like. I think it was the £800 well spent.
I'll finish up. So I think I've got to admit, I think if one thing that always plays on, you know, residents of Hexham and you know, people who actually visit Hexham is that, you know, the health of the high street. You know, that's the key thing everybody wants to go about. It's the health of the high street. You know, it's always what's happening, what can you do, and you're in an environment where, you know, just the world takes over, doesn't it? You know, the internet and everything else is changing, and you know, the world's in constant dynamic, and you know, what we've seen, or what we thought were very healthy high street stores pre-COVID have collapsed, and you know, they're probably on a slow decline, but that you know, COVID is rapidly declining, you know, and all these different things like House of Fraser and Debenhams and all this type of stuff, really, you know, what you thought were stalwarts of the high street were, you know, really threatened, and someone's disappeared, which is really unfortunate. So that is it. To me, this is about, you know, the end of COVID. Basically, like all the things, like when you have these major disasters in the world like this, is you jump forward, you've actually jumped forward 10 years in a short space of time and going like, right, what's next? So I think this would be really sensible thing is that we actually look and go, what is the future of our high street? What can be done, and you know, from now for the next probably 5 years really. So I think £800 seems a sensible sort of pay for such research. I think the points raised by Trevor about the county council holding awful lots of data would pay for that quite a lot, and give the consultant that time to you know, pull all that information together, understand the town, and then look and see what the next 5 years is. So very supportive. All those in favour of that? Okay, let's go for it. I think the sooner the better on that one. I think getting that done really.
Yeah.
Right, next one. Number 12, council assistant proposal that Hexham business group support by council take over managing the Tuesday market from Northumberland County Council.
Sorry. Right, so the next proposal is that the lovely Gary here takes over the running of the Tuesday market. So Hexham's had a market, well, for the last, it's a market town with a market that's been running for 800 years, and it probably was more effective 800 years ago than it is now. it doesn't have a thriving market, which it should. And this year, we will be celebrating 800 years of having that market. The current situation is that the Shambles section is okay. We have an excellent farmers market, but the Tuesday market is really poor. Now, Gary is a Hexham resident. He's very community minded. He's involved with the PTA, his children's school. He's the chair of the Hexham Business Group, which he set up, and is now fully constituted and accepted by NCC as a proper negotiator. And he's the owner of the Think Small Business Group community. He came and made a presentation to the Town Council a few months ago about his ideas for setting up for taking over the running of the Tuesday market. And he's had this germ of an idea for, is it a couple of years now? So it's been kind of in, it's been going through the thought process of it for a couple of years. And it's been negotiating with Greg Gavin, the head of Northumberland Neighbourhood Services at NCC, who said that NCC was happy for him to take over the running of the Tuesday market, providing that he had the approval of the Town Council. So he made that presentation a couple of months ago. He's now put forward a formal presentation, a formal proposal, which has been circulated between all the councillors. And a number of the councillors here have been sort of considering it in a bit more detail and raising questions. So myself, Councillor Cessford, Councillor South Aiken, Councillor O'Farrell, Jez White from the Community Partnership, and Peter Sampson, the manager of the farmers market. We've all kind of considered it, raised issues, and those have largely been answered. So we're now at the point where we kind of need, we just need to hopefully give Gary the go-ahead to move on to the next stage. The next stage would be to create a committee which would oversee the group. So Gary would be the manager, but there would be an overseeing committee, which he proposes would have representation from this council, from a market stallholder, a resident of Hexham, and a business representative. Gary's been doing a lot of research into other towns markets and what makes those effective. The beauty of Gary's offer largely is that he's offering his time free of charge to get this idea off the ground. And I just see that it's a huge opportunity which really we shouldn't miss. We've got the structure of the farmers market on a Saturday, which is run very successfully. It's run as a not-for-profit on a not-for-profit structure, which is what Gary is proposing to follow. It has strict criteria for the distance that people have to travel. The aim is for it to be as local as possible, as few travel miles and all that sort of thing, which again Gary would be aiming to replicate. So yeah, the criteria for this one again would be the radius of travel, trying to avoid replication of stallholders, with key elements being that the focus is on being local, ethical and sustainable. So in summary, it's the Tuesday market that Gary's proposing to take over, but potentially if it did work, that could maybe extend to different days as well, maybe like a Sunday market, a craft market, art market. The intention would be ultimately that Gary would be paid and that it could be self-sustaining in the same way as the farmers market is. It wouldn't have any impact on the farmers market because that's up and running in its own right, and Gary can start immediately. We've also negotiated with the town, with a community partnership, to borrow, to have use of their 15 stalls, which are all uniform and which he would erect and dismantle on the day. Currently, if you have a stall on the Tuesday market, you have to provide your own stall. So it would look a lot more attractive if there were uniform stalls, and it would enable people to take a stall much easier if they didn't have to bring one with them. So the only other request that Gary has is that we would support him in Kickstarter funding initially, just short of £2,000, just to help get established with social media, insurance, that type of thing, and it is listed out in his document that is presented to everybody. If anybody has any questions, here he is.
Okay, any questions? Trevor?
Thank you. I've got a correspondence with Alison about this, and I've carried before various guises and meetings there before. We've talked in the past about canopies and putting them around in the Hexham marketplace. And one of the concerns has always been spending this money when, you know, you have no clue what's going to happen to it. You know, when I want to meet our tennis courts, how many we find. I think it's in the right way around doing things. I think, and I've made no secret of this, that is, you've taken on a very hard task here, Gary, and I'm sure you realise that. I don't think you're going into this blind or anything like that. But I sincerely wish you to be successful, because if you are, it will benefit greatly the centre of Hexham, and it will bring in other people to the shops that are around the marketplace and beyond. But that's going to be a hard job, but I'm more than happy to support it, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Stephen?
I agree with the Kickstart funding. I would agree with the £2,000. I've just got one slight concern. I think we'll overcome it. It very much depends on Gary. If Gary disappears after 3 months or whatever, the £2,000, could that be released almost quarterly by the town council, and for the town council, for this group to almost be answerable to the town council as an entity?
I mean, for me, I'm happy to run it in whichever way that gets the council support. Yeah, I mean,
I don't want you to be off sick for 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. And likewise, that's why I offered my time free of charge. It would be a sad opportunity to lose the market in its 800th year, so it's obviously good timing. The committee itself, I know Alison mentioned me as a manager, I think that's probably a bold word. I would probably say I'm just going to be a dog's body. And the market itself, I propose to be run by the committee. I'm just the guy on the ground doing the sweat and tears, basically. So yeah, I mean, whichever way it works for the council.
Oh, well done you as well.
But that funding initially, Stephen, is just initial funding. That would be it. That would be a one-off cost.
Would it?
No, it would be a one-off with the intention then that the income that comes in from the stalls would then be used. It would all just get ploughed back in, and it might even take a while before you were even able to take any sort of wage.
If you can give those reassurances, I don't have any problems with that.
Anyone else?
Yes, I think this is a really, really good idea. So, you know, congratulations on having an idea. There's a gap there that needs filling. But I do think we need to be quite clear, which I think you are, about the remit of this. So there's a market in York, which is called York Circle. So it does the radius and it determines who can actually take stalls on that basis, and it has to have sustainability and localism at its core. And it being distinct from the farmers market, I think is really, really, really important. And I think it ties into all the difficulties that we're having at the moment with retail outlets. So the fact that the stalls are available to people, they don't have to purchase their own, is another thing. And I think we should support this, I really do. I'm not entirely convinced by the composition of the committee, but I'm not quite sure why. I just think that
there's time for that.
Yeah.
We're just at the point of being clear.
So I think actually the town council should be a bit more central to it, because I think it ties into lots of other ambitions that we have. But that's just an observation. But
there was another issue raised as well that somebody made. I can't remember who it was, about what if Gary was poorly? Oh, was that you, John? What if he was incapacitated for whatever reason? And we did wonder whether the council would be willing to support in that instance by releasing some of the, the cemetery staff maybe to help to put up the stalls and dismantle them if necessary.
I think what I will say is that I've been self-employed for over a decade and I've never had time to do poorly.
Anyone else? So I'm going to disagree with Penny. She said it's a good idea. I don't think it is. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Just thinking very good.
Can we have a race to the top there?
I mean, if anything looks sad on a Tuesday, you walk through Hexham on a wet Tuesday, I was walk down the 4th Street at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then on a wet Tuesday, they're looking at the Tuesday market, and they're like, oh, goodness, please, this could be so much better. And you see the Saturday market, and you think, like, what a good job under difficult circumstances they have done, and this is a message that I was told once about this, and I've emailed to other people about this, is there's a good model sitting there on a Saturday where it's owned as a community body, and that money goes back into it, and it self-funds itself, and they've all got a stake in how that runs, and it's because of that it's so successful. It could be better, because everything could be, but it's kept on going, which could have easily faded, but it's kept on going. We've got a really good man, Peter Sampson. So there's a model there to be looked at, and I would say apply something very similar to that. One of the town council involved in as well. I understand just to get you going. I think the use of those market stalls that have that. I mean, I was speaking to Jez about this from the community partnership on Thursday, and he was saying they're underused. And that they don't want them to be underused. We've got these things already there. And I was actually talking to Peter Sansom on Saturday, about the look at the Saturday market, and everybody's got a very different canopy and all sorts of stuff, and some better than others, and they're all different colours and a bit random. A bit of standardisation, looking at what could be done on that Tuesday, it could be that new influence to Saturday. So I think there's loads of advantages here. Again, this is the core of the town. The 800 years. I'm glad you come along after 800 years.
Green was an apprentice on the first market.
So it's all positive. I mean, it's been a sad decline in the Tuesday market, so anything that gives it that injection of energy, I'm sure all of us will support you on that. So basically the question here is the sum of £2,000 to be granted towards that. Are we content to support?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a small question. Thank you. Great stuff. Well done. Right, number 14 is the sustainability. Which is always something that you thank you, Gary. There's many pages here, so we're looking at page 13, which gives you the layout, and then there's the various pages all the way through. Does anybody want to raise anything in particular here? Mike?
Just that there's a link up, item 1A, which talks about working towards ensuring sustainability at the heart of the work of the town council. And point 2 talks about all councillors acting as climate champions, which is obviously something that we support this. But there's a big link up in terms of some of the things we've actually talked about tonight. So Alison's idea about having the £800 spent on the consultant to look at Hexham, as ours who were talking about the front, buying things locally, pedestrianisation or access into Hexham town centre. So they're all sort of intrinsically linked. So I think as we're kind of working our way through everything that's, I think that's the approach is to have something that wins for your cause that you're sort of fighting for at the time, and also for something that wins for the actual greater cause of sustainability. If you can do it in a way such you kind of meet both, then you're not sort of pushing the other one against the other one. So it's just kind of work. Because I was just thinking about hazards and looking at the shop fronts. I think we could all do these things separately, and we end up fighting with each other. So it's just to make sure it's kind of holistic. I know we would do that, but I just thought the climate change plan sort of helps to bring that together.
Yeah. Anyone? John?
Thanks, Derek. I just want to thank everyone who's contributed to this. I'll put it all together. You've all had a chance to see it, and there have been many items changed in the process that it's going through. And I'm very grateful for people's contribution. I'd like to make one last change.
I think a man himself.
And that is simply to call it Hexham Net Zero Action Plan, rather than sustainability. Hexham Net Zero Action Plan. That kind of fits in with what the County Council's plan is, and this is very much modelled on the County Council.
Yeah.
It shows how we will be cooperating with them. And the climate action groups, which we've heard of tonight. And it all links up together in one seamless organisation.
That's good. And I think we should applaud everybody who's contributed into this, and I think John, the point that you just raised there about that linkage with Northumberland County Council, its role, and how us as the town council have put a lot of effort into this, and all the actions that sit underneath that and how we will play our role as we go forward to 2030. It'd be interesting to know, we shouldn't underplay that this town council is really making good steps forward on this, actually capturing what we want to do and then start planning ahead. And I'm sure the county council will be quite impressed that we've actually got something documented and a plan going forward as to what we want to do, because I'm not really sure what other parishes and towns are actually doing.
Yeah, there are quite a number of parishes and towns across Northumberland who are climate champions, the same as ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's a pilot scheme. It's the second tranche of people who've gone through this pilot scheme. And the county council learns from us as much as we learn from the county council. It's a two-way, in fact, a three-way process, because we mustn't forget the climate action groups.
Yeah.
The county council are reaching out to through us.
So is there any? Sorry, I'll go Penny and then I'll go Sarah.
I've just got a question that's been troubling me. I absolutely applaud this, and I think that everything that we've been doing on the town council, independently and in conjunction with the county council, is exactly the direction we should be going in. But I want to know about divestment from fossil fuel investments at county council level. So I think I'm asking whether the county councillors could they ask that question? Because when it was raised, because divesting pension pots from fossil fuel is absolutely critical. And the county councils, as far as I understand it, are enmeshed in a massive pension pot that covers lots of county councils. So the process of withdrawing from that is quite complicated. And I was just wondering if somebody on the county council could ask that question to see how far Northumberland County Council has got in divesting, because if they don't do that, it cuts a different light on their aspirations, and we are part of that aspiration.
Right, so I used to be the chair of the pensions committee and vice chair for many years, and we used to get asked that question an awful lot. So we drop me a note, we come to the council box, and get you that answer, which is very long. But it's very complex, is to say, not easy to once you go to the markets, and you can pretend that you're not, that you're months green, and it's a month or whatever, it's like, it's like an ocean, isn't it? You know, you might be thinking, I'll put maybe like the water in this bit of the ocean, but once it becomes the ocean, it's one pool of water. So you try to test for it. Very difficult. Stephen.
I'm not throwing a hand grenade in me, I promise you, John. The marketplace. How can it not be pedestrianised if we've got this as a core to our aspirations?
Are you saying that should be part of?
Well, I haven't said anything, but is it how? I'm not so brave, John. but is it something that this group would look at? And is it aspirational to have the town centre as pedestrianised or pedestrianised as time goes on? Is this, if I was arguing against it, is this a stealth thing that we're moving towards it? Or if you're in favour of it, it's part of that process?
Personally, I'm in favour of complete pedestrianisation of the marketplace, Beaumont Street, Hallstyle Bank, and other places, apart from the people who live in the area, or emergency vehicles, etc. That's my personal view. But I can understand some of the objections that were raised previously. People, shopkeepers perhaps, who were frightened of losing their trade and who objected to the plans because of fear of what might happen, and I can understand that. One of the things I think we need, and again I'm only speaking for myself, is a transport plan, a sustainable transport plan, which gets people into the marketplace without them bringing their cars. And if we had such a transport plan, we would be able to reassure those shopkeepers and traders who are worried about their livelihoods, because we could say, well, this is how we can get people into the town, this is how we're going to get footfall into your shops. I don't think that's answered your question.
No, I don't answer to your question, John. But is it a consideration that we're going to have a look at the whole thing rather than pick things off? There's a big question in there, isn't there? And we've all avoided it because it's too contentious. But I think we should re-examine it again.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking on that point, what would be to stop us from setting in place a transport policy like you're suggesting before pedestrianisation? So get that up and running so that people could see the benefit of that before committing to the pedestrianisation of the marketplace.
Again, personally, and I'm not speaking for others, but I think the two have to run together.
I'm just thinking of a means of maybe like moving things forward a little bit away from that stalemate of either full pedestrianisation or leaving it as it is. Could we start moving forwards with the transport option? And then people could see how it would actually work and how they could avoid bringing their cars into the marketplace.
Yeah, I'm sure that's It might be interesting for people to know that in 2015 there was a sustainable transport policy document. It wasn't taken up as policy by the council, but there was a document produced. So Strands had work to do with it. Trevor, do you remember that?
I remember
it was.
Sorry, I'm just sitting for this one, back soon. I remember that Sustrans did do, well, it was more or less a sort of a wish thing, you know, rather than anything else, the sort of designs of Peace Bubble, make it sort of pedestrian friendly and all that, but it wasn't an actual job as in it was going to happen. It was just a sort of a wish thing, you know, what was a possibility what could happen.
And it's worth finding this document. Sorry.
I'm going to bring Fee in if that's...
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just wondering whether this guy that we're going to employ for the sake of £100, whether we might be jumping the gun.
Whether we could push that responsibility onto you. Can you solve this for us, please?
Let's dump that moment.
He said.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Possibly, hopefully, but yeah, whether he might actually come up with either that it's a good thing or not, and that would.
Well, it'd be interesting to know what his take would be on it.
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
that's what I mean, really, and certainly in terms of modernisation of the town centre, I mean, personally, I would guess that's the way he would suggest it goes, but, or maybe that he might decide that's not his remit, but I was sort of wondering if we can get him in sooner rather than later. It would be quite useful to know his thoughts before we move forward. Maybe spending any more time on law policy.
I bring you in then.
Okay, yeah, just building on Faye's point, I think it's just defining what the nature of the problem is, and then drawing in all the different aspects in terms of town football, transport, being green, and then once you get the problem defined, this consultant might say, right, I can define the problem, and we might have to wait for another bunch of funding or something else, another vehicle to use that to say, well, we know what the problem is, this is what we're trying to solve. How do we solve it? Rather than saying, well, I think we should just pedestrianise or not pedestrianise, let's try and define it. That sounds like we're moving to a point where we just want to kind of get it out in the open and get some consultation done.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you so much. So that's good. So I take it we'll be seeing this plan periodically. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Right. So our next item is all the draft minutes. As in January. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. No comments? All agree. Okay, next item.
Thank you. Received correspondence on the last ones, NALC e-news, national NALC events, CAN e-news, County Council Climate Change Q&A event was in January, Arthritis Action, invitation to the Youth Initiative AGM was in January, Northumberland CVA Support Services information and also job trustee vacancies, County Council's review on Store Warren, Hexham Town's recipe calendar, Science for Life scheme, Rosie's Corner newsletter, County Council library briefing, information that will be a Hexham Police Poppy by-election on the 24th of March, with the notice of election due to be published on the 17th of this month, GP access survey, funding e-bulletin, County Council updates on Storm Malik, a temporary traffic regulation order related to Highford Lane, and information on the Great Bridge Spring Clean 2022.
Thank you. Right, next item is to remove the exclusion of the public. Could I have a second, please? Okay, thank you. Excellent. That includes you. Yeah.